Theme Park was the 6th map added to Rainbow Six Siege after launch, and it's definitely been quite controversial throughout its time. At the time it released, Theme Park was quite possibly the worst map in the game. Its main problems being it being too big, too dark, and too confusing, especially with the first floor. So did the remake actually fix these 3 issues? Yes, but it's still not a very well received map, to be honest. But I expect mostly everyone can agree that it's still so much better than its original state. So let's get right into this and check out the old Theme Park for nostalgia's sake. When a map gets reworked, it usually either stays the same size with just changing up some rooms, or it gets a bit bigger. Theme Park though is quite the opposite to this because it actually got smaller. You can visualize how much smaller it got just by standing at the bumper cars, because as you can easily see, this outside wall is much further back now than it used to be. Let's quickly go check out the scrapped part of the map before anything else, otherwise checking out the outside wouldn't really make much sense. The scrapped part was right in the middle of the map, which was the rail platform, which was between the cafe corridor and rail corridor, nowadays known as the yellow corridor, and the waiting room. This was a really cool looking room, but scrapping it was definitely for the best, because this room was so annoying. There were just too many places to hide with all of the train carriages, and the room was just too big in general. It really didn't fit this game. Such a beautiful skylight in this room too. I love abandoned stuff. Fun fact, this skylight is actually still there in the rework. It just isn't really a skylight anymore. It's just randomly plonked here on the roof. I mean, it looks pretty cool still, but it definitely looks cooler in the original. I really wish we can get on top of this skylight though. I don't think it would be that useful in game, maybe a bit, but it just would be so cool just to see down there through the top of the skylight. Nowadays with this room gone, the waiting room just connects straight to the yellow corridor, with no room separating the two. Now with that covered, exploring the outside of the building will make a bit more sense, as obviously it's going to be smaller in the rework, and there might be just some random bits missing. So let's first move on to the attacker spawn points. And we're now done checking out the attacker spawn points because none of them have changed. Although this does give us a nice top view of the map. And it also shows where it's shrunk from, and the irrelevant stuff like the vents moving and all that, like who cares about that. This skylight bit in the middle hasn't moved at all, and you can see it's now much smaller on the east side in the rework, so that's just another view that shows that it shrunk from the bumper car's side. We'll check out the teacup spawn first though, because, well, it's just the one that I always spawn at. Other than the visuals, nothing has changed here other than some walls being added around the teacups. I guess just to prevent spawn peeking. If we look towards the east, we can see quite a bit of change here. I mean, you've got a van in the rework, and then in the original you had a big staircase. You can't really miss it. This staircase led to 3 of the 4 entrances to the train rail. You had 2 doors and then you had a breachable wall right in the middle, which led into one of the train carriages. Of course, that this room no longer exists, this staircase no longer exists, otherwise it would just lead nowhere. Let's retreat back to the west side now, and you can see this window in the wall here has moved a little bit. It used to be a bit more to the left. You've got some debris either side of this window now as well to make it a bit harder to push from, and it's just overall a lot more built up looking into this window now. You used to be able to get some really nasty lines of sight into this window, but because of all this stuff here now, you can't really do that very much anymore. We can't talk about the original theme park without mentioning the southwest entrance though, because this entrance never used to be boarded up. I mean, this entrance used to be in the thumbnail, it used to be in the cover art, so it does look a bit weird seeing this main entrance boarded up, to this day to be honest. Nothing else too interesting changed around the main entrance area, other than this one opening being closed in the rework now, where it was open in the original. These face cutouts were in both versions, but this one in the southwest corner changed the graphic. It used to be the monkey and tiger mascots in spooky outfits. Now it's just been replaced by that same one of Ash as the monkey and Sledge as the tiger. I don't really know why they changed this, because this graphic already existed anyway. It's used on the sign on the south, and that was the same with the original as well. Plus, I kinda like this graphic more. It fits the theme of the park more. Check out this wall! It hasn't really changed other than the colours. I mean, I think I prefer the colours in the original, to be honest. This window up here used to be more to the left though. There was this closed off window to the right, which is the one where the current one is right now, but where it used to be, there's just wall there now. This bit down here never used to be in the building as well, so you could just walk under here. Now it's just a wall again, because that is inside the building. And this is where we start seeing quite a bit of change on the outside because of that train rail not existing anymore. In the original you had these broken train carriages you can get up to get to the south entrance of the train rail. You would climb up the ramp of this building here, and then you can get on top of that carriage. This building and ramp does still exist, but it doesn't really have much use anymore. The east side of the building looks completely different. And this southeast side really went downhill in terms of aesthetics. I mean, you had these two spooky signs of the tiger and the monkey. It was really cool. I guess the reason why they've removed all of this haunted kind of stuff is because there used to be more haunted rooms in the original theme park, which are now non-existent in the rework. I don't really know why they removed them all, but we'll get to that when we get in the building. The bumper car side hasn't really changed much at all, other than a few anti-spawn peeking things being added. Nothing too interesting to talk about here, so I'll just do a quick non-commentary run. Let's enter the building now from the arcade entrance. As we saw before, the main entrance to it is now blocked off. The window though is still open. But holy crap, I didn't know the aesthetics took this much of a downgrade. The leaves used to enter the building to add to that abandoned feel. I mean, I know the lighting had to be changed and it had to be brighter in here, but I feel there's definitely better ways they could have done this with keeping the leaves in. They could have maybe had a hole in the roof or something with some volumetric lighting coming down and loads of dust particles everywhere. Oh man, it would have been so cool. I really hope they make the aesthetics better in CJX for theme park, because I'm a simp when it comes to abandoned stuff. Overall though, nothing's really changed in the arcade entrance itself, but you may notice that the balcony upstairs was extended in the rework. We'll get to that a bit later when we have a look upstairs though. The barrel room didn't change too much other than a couple of breachable walls shifting positions. That one being on the east wall. It used to actually be all the way to the left of the wall here, whilst now it's to the right. Just to the right of this window, there used to be some debris to give you more cover there. This debris is completely gone now, and then there's also the hatch in the ceiling which never used to be there in the original. This hatch now leads to the bunk. If we break open this wall here, we can see a nice comparison of the corridor. Oh my god, the aesthetics! What did they do to you? The lab saw basically no change, other than the name change. It used to be called the Drug Lab, but now it's just called the Lab. There did used to actually be a hatch in the ceiling as well, which led to the upper arcade. This hatch is now gone, although the ceiling is still breachable here. Well, I say still breachable, but the ceiling actually never used to be breachable at all in here. It used to all just be solid, whilst now the whole thing is breachable. The drug storage, now called just the storage, never had a breachable ceiling though in either version. This room also didn't really see any change at all, other than the window shifting positions. It used to be more in the middle, but now it's gone all the way to the left. The ceiling in the drug toilet, no I'm kidding, it's always been called the arcade toilet, did actually used to be breachable, but now it's not breachable. The changes in here mostly consisted on removing the individual toilet stalls. This room was kind of annoying to attack because there's just quite a few different places to hide in here for such a small room as well. So removing the individual stalls was definitely a good change. You did also used to be able to see down the corridor from this window. You can't anymore though because of this wall being extended. I guess the people at the urinals do need a bit of privacy though. Speaking of the window, there's definitely quite a different view out of it now. Because of the train rail existing in the original, these stairs were here going up to the train rail, but they are no longer there because, well, it's gone. If we step out into the corridor, we can see that all of the ceiling here is actually breachable across both corridors. None of the corridors have breachable ceilings now though. Mid-stairs were a bit more claustrophobic in the original. This drone hole here next to the stairs never used to be there, and the upper ledge above the stairs never used to be there either. In the locker room, there's a little bit more space to move around in here now. The exit door to the locker room used to be all the way to the left, but now it's in the centre, and there's just a bit more cover in this room now in general, especially with this locker to hide behind now. Going out the exit door, there used to be scaffolding here instead of this brick wall. If you look up nowadays, you can see that upstairs bathroom window, where in the original, it was the roof to that train rail entrance. Although this bathroom window was actually placed further back towards the east in the original, because of the whole map being smaller thing. Now, this is where it gets really difficult to make this video, because the east side of the first floor of this map completely changed. Like, they genuinely look unrecognizable to each other. So I won't do much commentary here describing where all the doors and windows and walls shifted position, because that's literally everywhere here. Instead, I'll just try to line up the best I can with where I'm standing in the rework to where I'm standing in the original. This breachable wall opposite the stairs did used to stretch across the whole wall, but now it's only half the wall. Where we're standing now in the execution room is where the present day armory room now is. The door that led from the joint corridor to the service corridor, now called the blue room, used to be a double door, but now it's a single door. Going left when going through this door, there is now a door that leads to the armory, whilst before it used to be a breachable wall that led to the execution room. This east side first floor of the map is one of the main reasons, to be honest, that made Theme Park a really bad map to begin with. Because this side of the map was just so confusing. I don't think anyone really understood this side of the map. It was dark, it was a maze, it was just way too complex and way too big. I mean, look how dark these rooms are. It's insane. I guess this could be a reason they wanted to get rid of all the haunted stuff in this map as well, because the map couldn't be as dark as it used to be. But I don't know, I still feel they could have made this map spooky without having it too dark. Okay, this room does look really cool though with all the mist on the floor. These stairs are basically the same, but they used to actually go up towards the north, whereas now they go up towards the east. They used to come out to where the cash corridor is. Whereas now, they go to where that back corridor is. Why the change? Well, the back corridor never actually used to exist. This used to just be a brick wall here, and this is where the corridor ended. The left stairs are actually blocked off nowadays as well. The cash corridor used to just be called the haunted stairs, and there was a hatch in the ceiling here as well, which led to the roof. This hatch is no longer here though. The cash stash is mostly the same, other than some bits of furniture being moved around, and the window now being a door instead, which leads to the new balcony. The east wall extends out a bit more in the rework now, and this breachable wall here never used to be breachable, because this breachable wall leads to that back corridor, which doesn't exist in the original. This hatch in the floor looks like it's moved, but it actually hasn't. That's again because of the east wall extending out a bit more in the rework. The hatch here was against where the original east wall was. The office showers used to be called the office toilet. There is a reason for this name change, because this poor toilet no longer exists. The window is still here as well, which is the one we mentioned from earlier, and then there used to be a breachable wall here just to the right of the door. Now the wall is just a solid one. The whole of the office floor used to be breachable, but now only the south of it is, and this room has changed a lot, from it being bigger now to having a different layout, and the whole shape of the room just being a bit different. There did used to be a window in this west wall, which led to the train rail, but that's now been replaced by a breachable wall, which leads to that cafe corridor, because of the train rail not existing anymore. There's a whole new room now on the north side of this office called the office vault, and this one has a breachable wall which leads to that ledge above the mid stairs. And then finally, the west breachable wall all the way to the left of the wall no longer exists. Let's move on to the waiting room, which used to be called the rail corridor in the original, because this corridor was quite literally a corridor. There wasn't any space to move around, it was literally just there to act as a way to get from the rail platform to those east stairs. But now this waiting room acts as a proper connector that links the two corridors together, the initiation room and the office. There's even a door you can barricade now to those stairs. This room was able to be expanded because the initiation room got a bit smaller. It doesn't look very smaller comparing the two, but it's because this back room in the original no longer exists in the rework. The door to the initiation room did also shift a bit as well. It used to be more to the west, but now it's more in the middle of the wall, and then there did used to be two breachable walls on the right of it, but now there's only one. There did also used to be this bit of wall sticking out just to the right of the door to give a bit more cover in that corner, but that's no longer there. The main breachable wall did used to have a bit more cover around it, but now it's just that wall that blocks it from the main door. And of course there's this back room called the south exit, which no longer exists. Where I'm standing now in the rework though is where that south exit would have been, and this is where that exit door that was always blocked off would have been. You can see there's a little drone hole there now as well. Even these two windows are still here. The right one was always blocked off, but the left one did actually used to be a proper window. And this breachable wall that leads to the control room is still here, but it's just in the south exit now, instead of the initiation room. Let's check out that control room, because it does look a bit different, doesn't it? If you remember, that back corridor never used to exist in the original, so that means the control room quite literally just stops and there's just a brick wall there instead. The window that used to be on the east wall was moved to the south wall, and this drone hole in the east wall no longer exists. The hatch also never used to exist in this room. Going out this window, you can see it leads to a scrapped balcony, which then gives you instant roof access. Now we can move on to the upstairs west side of the building. This corridor used to be called the cafe corridor, but now it's called the yellow corridor. This hatch in the floor never used to be there in the original. This brick wall is pretty much in the same place as that breachable wall in current theme park that links the yellow corridor to the office. Because of the rail platform in the original though, this instead leads to the rail platform, but this wall of course isn't breachable. The bunk didn't actually change that much. The hatch in here is another hatch that didn't exist in the original. This wall is also a lot more built up here compared to how it originally was. And this breachable wall of course leads to the rail platform instead of the initiation room. The most notable change in here though is this back room being extended now. It used to only cover the southwest corner of the bunk, but now it covers that whole south wall, which gives a little bit less space in the bunk. This used to be called the bunk toilet in the original and had a toilet inside, believe it or not, whilst now it's called the break room and is more like a kitchen. The window here still exists, and the window that was originally in the bunk still exists. It's just in the break room now, and it's been moved all the way to the left. This breachable wall used to just be a fall down to the lower arcade, but now as the balcony was extended, this just goes straight to the balcony of the upper arcade. There's nothing too interesting to talk about with the daycare, it's mostly the same layout, just different models. But the door that leads to the upper arcade did shift position slightly. These two doors to the daycare were originally in line with each other, but now that one to the upper arcade has moved more to the left. You can see the difference when standing in the upper arcade here. There did used to be a breachable wall on this west wall as well, but that's now just a brick wall. Now the last room to talk about is the cafe, and there isn't really any change at all in here to be honest. It's really just that breachable wall being gone on the east side, which led to the upper platform above the yellow stairs. But this platform didn't exist in the originals, so that's why the breachable wall isn't here. We've pretty much covered all of the hatches on the roof, but what about the roof itself? Well, it's definitely had a bit of change in terms of layout, mostly because of that skylight not existing anymore. There never used to be a bit you can walk through in the middle here because of that skylight. You had to go around the outside using the platforms that were dangerously placed on the building. I did almost forget to mention this hatch actually that's in the yellow corridor right now. This hatch here did also move. It was originally closer to the rail platform door, whilst now it's closer to the yellow stairs. And I think that's pretty much all of the map covered then. It's time to move on to the objectives. Out of all the maps we've covered so far, this map has definitely had the most objective changes. And the main reason for that is the fact that the east side of the map downstairs completely changed. So that means at least one objective from every mode has changed. For Bomb, only one objective did change here, which was Gargoyle and Haunted Dining, which changed the Armory and the Throne Room. But that's definitely not all that's changed for Bomb. Because in terms of how good each objective is here, the rankings have completely reversed. For instance, Office and Initiation Room is considered the best objective in this map right now, as far as I know. This is of course coming from a bronze player, so if I'm talking crap, just let me know. But I know this objective is at least considered one of the best, but this objective was considered one of the worst in the original theme park. And the reason why this is definitely not a mystery. Because of that east corridor not existing, there was pretty much only one entrance to the Initiation Room, which was just the main door. So that means if you're staying in Initiation Room, you're pretty much staying there the whole game. Or, if you're not in Initiation Room, good luck getting back there when the attackers plant. Now with that east corridor there, you can loop all around, and even get downstairs without even going out of that main door to the Initiation Room. The office wasn't even much better, because this room is definitely a lot harder to defend than it is nowadays. There was pretty much no cover at all in this room at the time. And you also had that window, which was definitely more problematic than the breachable wall we currently have. Then the waiting room didn't exist, so it was just this tiny corridor linking the two. Yeah, this objective kinda was a joke. That's not even mentioning all the extra windows and entryways to the initiation room especially. Let's go to the opposite now, which is the drug lab and the drug storage. Now known as the lab and the storage, this objective nowadays is considered by far the worst objective on the map, whilst originally it was actually considered the best objective on the map. The reason for this is a bit more minimal compared to the office and initiation room, the main reason being that the lab now has a fully breachable ceiling, whilst in the original, barely any of the lab ceiling was breachable. The window in the storage is also a little bit more easier to attack now. The main reason for the change though, is the other three objectives just getting more buffs while this one got nerfs, which therefore made this one become the worst objective. I wouldn't say this objective is terrible though, but it's definitely the worst one on this map. The daycare and bunk definitely used to be the second best objective on this map, whereas nowadays I would say it's the third best objective, although between the second and third best is debatable. The only buff really to this room is the window in the bunk not being there anymore because it's now been moved to the break room instead, so that gives a bit more cover now in the bunk, and it makes it a little bit more easier to defend. And lastly, we have Gargoyle and Haunted Dining. To be honest, I really don't even remember ever defending this room. I'm not sure whether this room was considered worse or better than the office and initiation room, but I think both of them are pretty much on par to be quite bad. This room just has so many entrances. I mean, I guess one positive of this room is that maybe the attackers won't even find it because it's such a maze down there, they won't even know how to get there. This room was replaced with the throne room and armory, which is a much better objective. Literally only 2 entrances and a partially breachable floor. I would say this objective is definitely very defender sided, and some may even consider it the best objective. Secure Area only saw one objective change as well, which was the Haunted Dining, which changed to the Throne Room. This objective did shift quite a bit actually. If they wanted to keep it roughly where the Haunted Dining used to be, it would be like, I don't know, in the Dragon Corridor I guess. What an objective. And then with Hostage, we actually saw 2 objective changes. The Hostage location upstairs on the east side used to be the office, but then it was changed to the initiation room. I don't really understand why they changed this to be fair, but I don't really care to be honest. And then the execution room changed to the armory. This one was kept in the same place because the armory is basically where the execution room used to be. I really remember this hostage objective actually. I loved this one. And we're done! I was worried about this one because of how much changed, but we got through it in the end. I think overall this rework was definitely for the better. There aren't really any downgrades at all other than the aesthetics. They did partially need to be changed just because the map was so dark before. I do think they could have kept some of the aesthetics though, with also making it a lot brighter. In terms of gameplay, the rework definitely did help this map a lot though, even though this map isn't very liked to this day. I did used to like this map a lot, but I've kind of got bored of it a bit more recently. Maybe my love for theme park will return again someday. I think this map will always have my favourite aesthetics though, but it still can't beat the original. Anyway, thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.